Welcome to the Art of Marketing Operations, a Taylor podcast. Here you can grow your knowledge about marketing operations, listen to ideas and strategies to help you scale, grow, and optimize your efficiency, drive your speed to market, and enrich your work life. Let's get to it.
Welcome to the Art of Marketing Operations, a Taylor podcast. I'm Glenn Bottomley, and today my guest is Dave Glaza, founder and CEO of Digits Agency, a leading marketing consulting firm supporting omni-channel grocery retailers and brands. Thanks for joining us today, Dave.
Great to be here.
Well, one of the things that I think is fascinating about you is your career path, because you started with a focus on physical aspects of marketing, but now you have grown into a powerhouse in this digital retail media space. How did this transition happen?
Well, I think the first part of it is I started before digital really even existed, which is a longer time ago. But yeah, I started my career I started at Target, did 10 years sort of as a mass merchant, physical side merchant. But then at that point in time, I got moved over to Target's Cartwheel program. So it was a leadership program in building what's now Target's leading coupon program. And that really just fascinated me on the way to drive physical impact with like a digital device. And so this was 10 years ago now, 11 years ago now. And the fact that we could put a deal on your phone and get hundreds of thousands of people to physically get in their cars and walk into a Target store to go shopping within like sometimes the same day was just amazing to me that we could like just drive that level of physical impact. That plus all like the digital tools that started to kind of be created at the time, for me, just put me down a path to think like, how do we use digital tools, interact with physical, and kind of build that piece of the business.
Yeah. Well, and let's talk a bit about the physical side. So you've seen a lot, throughout your career, and particularly even just that, what you just said in terms of the start. So what are some of the biggest things that you've seen that physical marketing can actually bring to the table that really no other marketing approach can?
Yeah. Well, and again, so the industry that, I'm in is grocery largely, right? So your Target stores, Walmart stores, regional grocers. And so, if you're talking physical marketing, a lot of that in a grocery store is pallet drops, end caps, physical shops and space. And so the two things like qualities wise that those create, one is scale. Like there is no faster way to drive impact than just physical marketing, blowing it out in every store, dropping a pallet of chips or whatever, and the amount that you can sell quicker versus digital is just a ton. Mm-hmm. And the other is user experience. And so, that same sort of chips example, right? You put the pallet there, the customer walks by, they can pick it up, they can look at it. Depending on what product it is, they can smell it. And so there is no way to really replicate that in a digital world. Even if, you're going down the paths of augmented reality and whatnot. So I guess to sum it up, even as good as digital has got, it is difficult to replace the scale and the experience you can get on the physical side.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's interesting. And what role do you feel that plays in reinforcing, the brand of that product? Because obviously, having that physical space is one thing. It obviously physically takes up a space. The ability for a consumer to interact with that product obviously is very key. But having that presence and reinforcing a brand and a brand promise, is that something that you have looked at in the past? Is that an important component, or is that just a side effect?
I'd say it's a little beyond what we do, but like, yes, I think where it's kind of thought for us is if you're going to invest in a physical way, and if you're a retailer and you want somebody to actually come in your store, then you better be leaning into those two things, right? You better lean into scale and lean into experience, right? You don't want it you want it to be better in a way than just shopping on your phone. And
Yeah.
so whether that's discovering new products or physically interacting with them or being inspired by the sheer volume of stuff that you can see that you can't see on a couple inches, TV scroll or phone scroll.
Mm-hmm.
That's to me how, our clients take it away, is how do we lean back into what actually is awesome about physical retail or physical marketing and make sure they're really good at that.
Yeah. Well, and let's talk a little bit about retail media, in terms of your work in this digital space. So let's first, though, start with a comprehensive definition of what actually is retail media, just to ground the conversation. And then what can retail media actually mean for any sort of business, not just, a grocery retailer, but how can anyone sort of leverage or understand what retail media is?
Yeah. So retail media, or if you're in articles, you'll see it's called RMNs, Retail Media Network, is just sort of the acronym. But essentially, if you back up about 10 years, grocery stores and retailers figured out that they have all this data on people. And so specifically, even like a Kroger card or other retailer loyalty networks, they have a ton of data on people. And once digital tools and like the launch of Facebook and whatnot came out, a retail media was born. And it is a way to, you take your shopper data and you serve ads to people, either on site like a Target.com or off site on a Pinterest or on a app or even on a connected TV like Hulu today. And then you track who saw the ad, and then you actually follow up to see if they bought it in store. And so it is a way to take your shopper audience data, serve them ads, and then follow up to see what actually happened. So that ecosystem, I'd say, is what people call retail media. There's a lot of different channels you could use. And so you might hear it called like search marketing. It might be connected TV. It might be social. It could even gravitate to physical, where somebody's sending you a mailer, to your house, and you're getting a postcard with offers on it or discounts. But it's really any way to a store to use their shopper data and track closed loop sales.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. And then, and you mentioned about a direct mail piece where, a shopper, to your point, goes into the store, you present them with digital ads later, and try to track, okay, I'm showing this product. Did that advertisement actually work? Did they come back into the store? Did they then purchase that? Does that also work cross stores? So for example, they're in retailer A, and let's say retailer B is where they actually go back in and purchase that. Does the brand who's actually creating that product, do they have that visibility to be able to then track that, shopper data from this store, but then they buy it at another store? Does the brand have that access to that information, or does it not go across the, cross brands or cross stores, cross channel?
It doesn't go across very well. I would say each retailer today in the network is sort of building their own house.
Yeah.
And so it's one of the current challenges in the industry that I would say, Target's got its own house, Walmart's got its own house, Amazon does. And yes, some of your money talking to people via a Target RMN, some of those people probably leak out and go buy it at Walmart or Cub or Hy-Vee or whomever, but you don't have great tracking of that data. And so the RMN itself is sort of built to be a closed house. I think some really smart brands are trying to find ways to be able to measure it the way you said, but it's not really the way that it's designed right now.
Well, and I wonder about the ability for geofencing. Has there been experiences that you've seen where, for example, like in a Target brand or another major retailer, is then tracking that redemption? Obviously, to your point, they'd be able to see it within another Target store or Target.com or other Target property. But that ability to then, potentially use, geofencing information or other buyer data. I'm also thinking about consumers that are at their home, streaming television, et cetera. Are you finding that this ability to track buyer behavior is extending out, or does it stay pretty closely, sort of tight to the actual walls of the retailer?
Within a first party solution, so like Target calls their RMN Roundel, it's just the name of that, right, their company. So like Roundel, probably 95% of their focus is just within like a Target solution.
Just right there.
But third parties are trying to do more of what you talked about. So if you run a campaign that's doesn't use the RMN data, but is like agnostic of retailer, then they can track phone location, and they'll say, okay, you tried to drive them into a Target, but that phone actually walked into a Walmart, let's say 3 days later.
Right.
Or they can sometimes get aggregated credit card data and track that, right? Where they'll be like that person made a purchase, right? At a Walmart or a Cub or a Hy-Vee or whatever. They'll know those things. So from a pure retail media side, you have a little bit of people coming out of opposite ends of the spectrum. You have the first party retailers are trying to build their own houses and build the best networks they can. You've got people on the outside that are trying to build cross retailer networks, and then they kind of meet in the middle a little bit, but neither are really designed to do both yet, from what we have seen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Are there examples of how retail media can be used for other industries or other or other business use cases? Or are you finding that, obviously, hence the definition, retail media, is it really just for retailers now? Are there other ways that this technology or this business approach could be used in other industries?
I think it definitely can be used in others. I think retailers are getting it started with the idea of how do you monetize your data, your shopper audience data, and make money off it, right, with advertising. And so really the key is just what other industries have a lot of shopper data that's unique. And so what we've heard, and it goes a bit about past where like digits, like my company's expertise, but like the travel industry, right? So think Airbnb or Kayak or whomever, like if they know when and where you like to travel, would that data be monetizable for rental cars or hotels or even swimsuits if you're going down to Cancun for a weekend or something? So the idea of using your data and kind of selling your data back, right, into DSPs to improve other people's advertising, I think certainly translates. And it's more of just as a company figuring out, do you have enough? Is it niche enough that it's worth better than somebody else's? And then how do you stream it into a DSP in the way to kind of make it work?
Yeah. And let's also talk about then the brand who is trying to get their product distributed through a retailer. Because I would imagine that now this changes the calculus in terms of how they also go to market. We have had guests on this podcast who are just starting to introduce new products, CPG products, other food products, et cetera, into a variety of retailers and retail channels. Looking at it from their perspective, I have a product that is a new snack food, let's say, and I'm trying to distribute into a Target or into a Walmart or into an online property, et cetera. Retail media, then, I would imagine, not only is this impacting and changing the way that the retailers work, but can you talk a bit about now, how does this actually change the way that the food and the product brands, in those brands, how they actually approach channels, accounting for retail media now?
Yeah, no, it certainly has. It definitely, we've had, and it's really important for them to do it that way or think about it and build a plan, because we've talked to a lot of founders or smaller brands where they spend all this energy and effort to get into a Target or a Walmart or whatever. And they that's their big moment. They're like, yes, we made it at shelf, right? We're there. We've got it. We've got our facings. We're in 1,000 stores. But to me, that's when it actually starts to get hard, because like you convinced Walmart to bring you in, let's say, but you got two facings on the bottom of a shelf in the corner of the store. And if nobody knows who you are
Right.
or has tried you or their friend has tried you, like you might not sell. Like it's hard to stay, even if you have the best tasting whatever in the history of the world. Nobody knows it. Nobody's gonna try it. So that's where, with the advent of retail media or the rise, is you now as a brand have levers and tools and tactics to be able to drive your business beyond just the physical shelf. So let's use like a chips example since we're talking that. So if I launched a new flavor of chips, like maybe it's a pickle chip or something, I can actually use retail media to go in, find all the people that like to buy anything flavored pickles at Target, let's say in the last year, and run either connected TV on Hulu, and I could do a video of my product and sort of say now available at Target, or I could run a coupon that way, or ads on Pinterest or whatever, and you could find maybe the 100,000 most likely shoppers, in whatever stores you're in that, would want to buy a pickle flavored chip, and then you show them your ads, and you can actually then track to see what did it work, right? Of those 100,000 people, how many actually came and bought it. But yeah, it's giving you tools and levers to do it versus just sitting on a shelf. And hopefully somebody saw your TV commercial that you ran, or your kind of mass marketing that historically has been all that you could do.
Well, and it also seems like it's interesting. Let's say, to use your example of the pickle chip, if you've got a brand that's introducing a pickled flavored chip, but then you have a completely different company that is introducing let's say a barbecue chip. And they're trying to both go into a specific retailer channel. Well, now that retailer who's leveraging retail media is offering through their own either retail media network or others, they're offering their shopper data. So the pickle chip and the barbecue chip, like to your point, on January 1, they both got approval. They are now on the shelf. Woohoo! To your point, that's fantastic, excellent news. But let's say the pickle chip is the group that says, we're going all in on retail media. I want to, acquire this information about the shoppers so then I can target, and go after those, potential buyers, which will increase my sales. But the barbecue chip manufacturer, let's say they're not leveraging this data or these data. Well, now all of a sudden, the pickle chip manufacturer, I'm assuming now, they have a much greater leverage. They have more information, better targeted advertising, and hopefully increased sales results, which when the retailer goes back and then measures at the end of each quarter, how are the chip, section of the store, how are the sales going? And they see the pickle chip is growing like crazy, but the barbecue chip is really stale and not selling very much. Well, they might not meet their threshold, and then they'll exit that barbecue chip vendor and bring in another one. So it feels as if the retailer has not only growing power, but it seems almost exponentially growing power because they're owning the channel, but now they also have the ability to then sell back that data, which then will drive more sales back in because the brand that is manufacturing the product, they want to survive on that shelf. And so they're going to want to be leveraging this information even more. Did I capture that interesting sort of feedback loop? Yeah.
Yeah, it is circular. I mean, in the idea of, if you don't use their tools to help drive your business, then you may not be there very long, right? Because they're not going to keep products on the shelf that don't sell. And so I would say it's not quite like tick for tack that way, if that's the right word. But if you can't sell, you're not going to stay there very long. So if you're not going to use retail media tactics of that retailer, you better find something else, right? You better have the greatest TikTok that's going to drive everybody to come there, or you better be sending free samples to everybody or something. Like you have to, you'll need to be driving demand in a different way, right?
Right.
What retail media is really good about is saying, well, here's your best audience, right? Like to our pickle example, these are the people that like to buy pickle stuff. So spend your money on these guys. Don't worry about that guy over there who's never eaten a pickle in his life, right? Like don't waste your money on that. And so that's what retail media is really great about, is really just helping define and build audiences, and then layering in that actual sales tracking at the end. So it's a lot. I mean, to come full circle to sort of like how do they get into digital? It's a lot to, in some ways, what like Facebook was doing almost like 10, 12 years ago when that sort of reinvented digital marketing, when they had all like their audiences and lookalike audiences for direct to consumer products, and how that was also new. This retail media revolution just reminds me a lot of that, but again, for physical stores, right? Like how are you using audiences, lookalike audiences, sales attributions and whatnot, but again, for physical grocery stores.
Mm-hmm. Well, and to the brand, I could also see the advantage there, not only to grow my sales, but it also, to your point, I'm only going to be advertising to those people who are most likely or have a highest propensity to buy my product. I'm not going to waste it on a person who's never bought a pickle product in their entire life, but I'm going to be now able to market and be more efficient with my advertising spend to drive demand. So I think that's a really an important component that you highlighted. Are there any other lessons that CMOs or other marketing operations executives, and potentially even non-retailers, are there other lessons that they can take away about this usage of retail media in this sort of circular sort of way in which retail media is used?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for grocers do get a lot of credit, I would say, for almost building these separate businesses. And so if you would have asked 10 years ago, is Walmart a media company, right? No, they're not a media company. They're a grocer, right? But now they make a significant piece of their profit from, media margin. Mm-hmm. And so, from a broad speaking lesson, it's more of, well, how do you lean into sort of these growing businesses, redefine your business model and not be scared of doing it? But I was at Target when a lot of this was forming. That's not as easy as it sounds. Like everybody is a little scared of doing it because it's kind of changing your business model and where you make your money, and it changes your relationship with your suppliers, right? From being a client to a seller, which is a little different. Mm-hmm. But I think that lesson of sort of redefining that and kind of building your profit and diversifying, these grocers get a lot of credit for. And I think that'll only be bigger for them as it goes. Like this trend is not stopping. And so if you look at Amazon, the percentage of their money they make from their advertising business is huge compared to actually selling product on their sites.
Yeah, that's actually really quite fascinating about looking at Walmart as a media company. Of course, they're a marketer. So, of course, you see ads for Walmart. You see ads for, their products and services in circulars or newspapers or what have you. And, of course, they're selling product left and right. But all of those, other aspects of their business. But now also selling their buyer data, their customer information, and selling that, and then using that to then become the media company, as you just stated. That's a really fascinating way of looking at the Walmart business, or any retailer's business, really.
Yeah.
So are there some favorite ways, Dave, in your experience, about how any marketing operations executive can pair digital marketing and physical marketing together for business today?
Yeah. I think it's about just making it come to life, right? Like at all different parts of the touch point. So I can give you an example from one that we do, and maybe it pops for other people, is we support Schnucks. They're a grocery store out of St. Louis. And we support their rewards program, which is kind of like their retail media network. Largely coupons. It's largely giving coupons to people to buy product. But 3 times a year, we create an event, which is both digital and physical. So we'll run, I think it's 30 to 50 different coupons that are like best of the best, 30% off Pringles or Doritos or whatever the best kind of deals are. And we handle them all as like a Schnucks Rewards event. But then we pair that with email assets, weekly ad cover assets, and then when you physically walk in the store, there's Schnucks Rewards branding everywhere. There's pallet drops of, that same Pringles, then right in front when you walk in with a 30% off Schnucks Rewards tag there. So for us, that's a way where, 3 times a year we can make our digital brand, because normally Schnucks Rewards is just a digital kind of experience, come to life in store. And we populate it all around the whole store with our best suppliers on some of our best products. and really try to drive a ton of usage and a ton of purchases kind of like those weeks, both to celebrate the program, to acquire new users, and to just obviously drive business, drive units kind of during those big weeks.
That's a valuable perspective because it's a really great example of omni-channel. It's exactly what you do every single day. But like you say, to the consumer, they're seeing this really nice blend of their experience with the brands and the retailers digitally. And then they have this physical manifestation of the brand and how they interact with that. It just extends that experience. And it probably really strengthens the loyalty. I mean, it's obviously a loyalty program to what you were saying, but I would really think that really has a powerful impact on consumer loyalty to that retailer brand. Yeah,
it's by far, our best shoppers are the ones that use the program, and those weeks are our best weeks, right? So it's sort of like a double peak of benefit, if you will, that way. And so, those are our best events of the year. And we try to replicate that across all of our retailers that we work with, if we're able to, of, how do we make it come to life, not just on somebody's phone or on somebody's desktop, but with their own eyes when they walk into a store and kind of see it that way as well.
Very valuable. Dave, before we wrap up today's episode, what is the main takeaway that you want to share to help understand the challenges facing marketing operations executives today?
I think it's leaning into sort of new business channels and new business ops. And so whether or not you are a retailer who is seeing things like this and saying, well, how do I redefine my business in this new challenge? Or if you're a brand that is looking for new ways to drive their business and you see something like retail media, I guess 5 years ago, nobody would have thought it would have been as big as it was for our industry now. So, takeaways is, how do you incubate these ideas? How do you pilot them in a way that makes sense? And how do you sort of lean into some of the growing businesses?
Excellent. Well, that wraps up this episode of The Art of Marketing Operations. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dave.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Well, until next time, stay safe and take care.
Thank you for listening to The Art of Marketing Operations, brought to you by Taylor. Don't forget to hit subscribe in your favorite podcast player. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, and share. Until next time.